Hello everyone, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I hope you enjoyed some of that good old turkey. And I want to thank you for pushing that play button. Thank you for joining me back at Seagull on Speed 252 for another episode. And if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please do. We would love to have you join us. We would love to take you on this journey with us and just learn so much about cars. New cars, old cars, whatever the case may be, we would love to have you with us. So please subscribe. Please hit that bell button right beside us so you get a notification anytime we release a video. So I had some good questions come up recently from some family members of the channel, and I want to go ahead and address some of those in this video and talk about why GM has not said anything about the C8 Mid Engine Corvette. So I know a lot of you have a lot of questions. I know a lot of you are interested in the C8 Mid Engine Corvette. So I want to do my best to try to bring as much information I can about this car. Whatever I get, you will get. So don't worry, this is definitely the channel you want to be a part of regarding the C8 Mid Engine Corvette and honestly other cars as well. I like talking about trucks. I love talking about different cars that's coming out. You know, the Supra is around the corner, so I can't wait to see one of those in person and get some information about that as well. So this is a channel that you will want to be a part of to get a lot of car information. And feel free to ask me questions whenever you can. Feel free to give me suggestions and videos you would like me to make. So recently I learned something about this C8 Mid Engine Corvette that I definitely want to share with you all. Something I heard from my friend who is kind of close to the C8 Mid Engine Corvette and have already seen it. And what he has told me was that GM does not plan to release their high-end version of this car, which is like the Z06 and the Z01. We obviously already know that, but we all are thinking that they're going to release their base model first. That's true in a way. So GM, right now, for what I was told, they are planning to release their base model, but not the base model as in the 1LZ. They plan to release their base model, the 3LZ, which in that case will give people an idea of what, the top tier base model version may look like. Because a lot of people are completely fine with not having options and things like that. But obviously, if you go to the dealership and the first thing you see is a car with a lot of options, you're going to want that. You're not going to want to go down to the base model version, which is smart on GM's part. So look forward to maybe GM releasing a 3LZ version of the Mid Engine Corvette and not just the base version, the 1LZ. And I don't know if any of you noticed, if you watched the reveal of the 2013 C7 when they first came out, it wasn't the base model as well. It was the higher end package. It had competition seats. It had, heated seats, cool seats. It had all that stuff. By no means did you see a basic Stingray came out when they revealed that car. So you probably should expect the same thing with the Mid Engine Corvette. Once again, if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please do. This will definitely be a great channel to be a part of regarding information on new cars and definitely the C8 Mid Engine Corvette. But one question I want to get into first that people have been asking me, how much was the deposit for this car? The deposit for this car was $2,000. And personally for me, the $2,000 is a lot of money, but it's also something that may secure your purchase in the long run. I'm hoping that a lot of dealerships get a lot of allocation for these cars where it won't be no big deal to actually purchase one and get one. But definitely the $2,000 was a deposit for the C8 Mid Engine Corvette. I know a lot of you mentioned, like, what if you don't like this car? What happens then? Well, I can't get my money back. So the $2,000 that I put towards this car is definitely refundable. And the only reason they will be able to keep your money is if they get an allocation and you decide to build this car and then you sign the paperwork. So with this $2,000, if I say, hey, next week, I'm going to pull my money back and just kind of wait it out and see if people get allocation for this car, I can totally do so. So by all means, if you would like to put a deposit on this car, you can totally do so. You don't have to worry about stressing whether your money is gone or not because you can get your money back. It's possible, you never know. In a month or two from now, I may end up wanting to get my money back. So don't worry about that. But I think dealerships will get allocation for these cars. So once again, it will be the base model. It won't be the base, hopefully. But it will be the base model where you will hope dealerships get a bunch of these anyways. Another question that was asked that I want to answer is, when is the release date of the C8? I personally do not know the release date of this car. I asked my friend. That was something he could not tell me. And so with that being said, it's something I can't tell y'all because I personally do not know. We all are hoping that the release date will be someday, like as far as a reveal, in January. It could possibly be in December. At this point, that is just a speculation everybody's assuming. So I cannot tell you for sure those will be the months where they will actually release that car. But I can't think of any other car show that this car will need to be released at, because we all know the Detroit Auto Show is one of the biggest car show events in the world pretty much. So another question that I pretty much want to answer before I hop into why I think GM hasn't mentioned much about the C8 Mid Engine Corvette is, some of you have asked me, do I know the price of this car since I have put down a deposit, and where should I go from there? So I personally do not know how much this car is going to cost. When you put down a deposit, you're just putting down a deposit once again to secure that you will hopefully get an allocation for this car. So right now, yes, I do not know the price of this car. So let's say, for instance, the car comes in at maybe $120,000 and I can't afford that. I can say, hey, I would like to have my $2,000 refunded back to me because I can no longer afford the C8 Mid Engine Corvette. I'm hoping that it come in less than 80. So with that being said, with all the questions I just answered, and for questions that was asked like what is the price and all that stuff, let's hop into why GM has not mentioned much or if anything about the C8 Mid Engine Corvette. And for starters, let's mention this. This is a message that I found today that was sent to me in one of my groups, and it says, very sad that we pay what we pay in a year, they drop in price this much. That's one reason why GM has not talked about much about the C8 Mid Engine Corvette. So let's talk about this and actually think about this as well. Refer back to my last video that I just released, which is saying the C7 prices are going down. This is an example of why GM has not mentioned anything whatsoever about the C8 Mid Engine Corvette. Is because they don't want to hurt their sales on their current car. They're trying to make as much money as they possibly can off their current Corvette before they mention or release anything about this car. So another reason why I think GM is really trying to keep this mid-engine Corvette under wraps is because they're really trying to fine-tune anything they can about this car. Like, we definitely seen it at Nürburgring a few times, two different versions of this car. And I also talking to my friends, they've seen a version themselves that was completely done. But I think GM truly wants to make sure everything is okay with this car before they release it. And I say this, GM knows they have had lots of problems with the C7. I think the C7 was an awesome car. I think the body style looked great. I know there are some C7s out there that didn't have any issues whatsoever, especially the manuals. But we also heard a lot of people having issues with their transmission, their Z06s overheating, and things of that nature. So I think for GM, is in their best interest to make sure they can get this mid-engine Corvette as perfect as they possibly can so they don't have to deal with these issues in the future. Because as far as I'm concerned, the C6 Corvette, I heard no issues with that car whatsoever. Now, I never owned a C6 Corvette, but I've been doing a lot of research on Corvettes in general. And I know some people that own C6s, and they, to me, told me they didn't have any issues with those cars at all. And then now GM brings the C7, and these issues are occurring. Now, I will admit, in 2014, when this car was released, I didn't hear too much of any issues with the Stingray version until 2015 and 16 with the Z06s, and then 2017 and 18s with the Grand Sports and the transmission and stuff like that. So I just think that GM hasn't said anything about this car because they're truly trying to figure out all the kinks. So another reason why I think GM hasn't mentioned much about this mid-engine Corvette is because they're trying to keep the hype with it. They haven't said anything about it, but one thing that we are talking about is this 2020 mid-engine Corvette. Now, there are lots of us that's talking about this car, from YouTubers, from magazines, from Car and Driver, from Corvette bloggers, from the list goes on and on and on. And this car has been in the making for 6 decades. I mean, literally 6 decades. They didn't figure it out then, well, they sort of kind of have, but now they're actually figuring it out. And Zora is the name that I think this car may possibly get. If not the base model, definitely the high-end version of this car. And it just makes sense. I mean, why would they even talk about it if they're not for sure what it's going to be like? They don't want to, put the bad taste in people's mouths. But there are people already that's considering saying they're not going to buy it because they don't think it would be a Corvette. They saying, why switch something over to something else? Why fix something that's not been broken, etc., etc. So that's another reason why I think GM has decided not to mention anything about this car, is because they're trying to keep the hype behind it as much as possible. So here's my question to you all. Why do you think GM has not said a word about this car whatsoever? Why do you think GM hasn't come out and said, hey, we are considering making this car is in the making, you should see this car soon, but you would still love a C7 if you're interested? Why has GM personally have not came out and said anything about this mid-engine Corvette? Once again, my name is Clarence. If this is your first time stopping by, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that bell button right beside it so you get notification anytime I release a video. I would love to have you part of the community. And once again, I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to catching another episode of Seek on the Speed 252.